Habitual offenders, professional criminals, and sexual offenders. Habitual offenders are individuals who repeatedly commit crimes, displaying a pattern of criminal behavior over time. These individuals are not necessarily involved in organized crime, but their consistent engagement in illegal activities makes them a persistent threat to law and order. Habitual offenders often exhibit a disregard for the law, with repeated arrests and convictions forming a part of their criminal history. In India, the legal system recognizes the need for special provisions to deal with habitual offenders, as their continuous criminal activities pose a greater risk to society than isolated or one-time offenders. Characteristics of habitual offenders: times recurrent criminal behavior. These offenders are repeatedly involved in unlawful activities such as theft, burglary, fraud, or assault. Times criminal records. They have extensive criminal records, often with multiple convictions and frequent encounters with law enforcement agencies. Times involvement in petty crimes. Habitual offenders often engage in lower-level crimes such as pickpocketing, shoplifting, and vandalism, though some may escalate to more serious offenses over time. Times psychological and environmental factors. Many habitual offenders come from marginalized backgrounds with limited access to education, employment, or social support, leading to a cycle of crime. Substance abuse, poverty, and lack of social mobility often contribute to their continuous engagement in criminal activities. Legal framework for habitual offenders in India. The Indian legal system has special provisions to deal with habitual offenders. Under the Habitual Offenders Act, states in India can maintain records of individuals with a history of multiple criminal convictions and subject them to stricter surveillance or preventive detention. Additionally, sections of the Indian Penal Code (IPC), such as Section 110, relating to habitual offenders known for certain crimes like theft, robbery, or receiving stolen property, allow the courts to impose heavier penalties on repeat offenders. Despite the legal provisions, rehabilitation remains a key challenge for habitual offenders. Without adequate social and economic support, many fall back into a life of crime after serving their sentences, perpetuating the cycle of recidivism. Professional criminals differ from habitual offenders in that their engagement in crime is more organized, planned, and profit-driven. These individuals or groups engage in illegal activities as their primary means of livelihood, making a profession out of crime. Professional criminals are often involved in large-scale operations, including smuggling, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and organized fraud. They possess specialized skills and knowledge in their area of criminal activity, making them more difficult to apprehend and prosecute. Characteristics of professional criminals: times organized and calculated. Professional criminals meticulously plan their crimes, often in collaboration with others, to maximize profit and minimize risk. Times skilled and knowledgeable. These criminals may possess specialized skills, such as expertise in forgery, hacking, or manipulation of financial systems. Times connected to organized crime. Professional criminals often operate within larger criminal networks or syndicates, contributing to organized crime in areas such as arms smuggling, human trafficking, or drug distribution. Times financial motivation. Unlike habitual offenders, whose crimes may be driven by desperation or compulsion, professional criminals are motivated by financial gain and the pursuit of wealth. Examples of professional criminal activity in India: times white-collar crime, fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, and corporate scams are forms of professional crime often involving individuals with insider knowledge of financial systems. Times drug trafficking. India serves as a transit point for drug smuggling, particularly in the Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent regions. Professional criminals involved in drug trafficking operate international networks to smuggle narcotics. Times human trafficking. Professional traffickers exploit vulnerable individuals, including women and children, for purposes such as forced labor and prostitution, often operating across national borders. Legal framework for professional criminals in India. Professional criminals are often prosecuted under various laws, including the Indian Penal Code (IPC), the Prevention of Money Laundering Act (PMLA), and the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act (NDPS Act). The Maharashtra Control of Organized Crime Act (MACOCA) and similar state-level laws provide special provisions to tackle organized crime. However, due to the sophisticated and often transnational nature of professional crime, law enforcement agencies face challenges in tracking, apprehending, and prosecuting these criminals. Sexual offenders. Sexual offenders are individuals who commit crimes of a sexual nature, including rape, molestation, sexual assault, and sexual harassment. Sexual offenses have a profound impact on victims, leading to physical, psychological, and emotional trauma. Sexual violence is deeply rooted in societal attitudes toward gender, power dynamics, and cultural norms. In India, sexual offenses against women and children are particularly prevalent, leading to significant public outcry and demands for legal reforms in recent years. Characteristics of sexual offenders. Times power and control. Many sexual offenses are motivated by the desire for power and control over the victim, rather than sexual gratification alone. This is evident in cases of rape, where the offense is often an assertion of dominance. Times opportunistic behavior. Some sexual offenders, particularly those involved in molestation or sexual harassment, take advantage of opportunities where the victim may be vulnerable or unprotected. Times repeat offenses. Some sexual offenders, particularly those with deviant sexual behaviors or disorders such as pedophilia, may engage in repeated acts of sexual violence, often targeting vulnerable individuals such as children or those in their care. Times psychological factors. Research suggests that some sexual offenders exhibit psychological issues, including a lack of empathy, narcissism, or a history of experiencing or witnessing abuse themselves. Types of sexual offenders. Rapists, individuals who engage in the non-consensual act of sexual intercourse with the use of force or coercion. Child molesters, individuals who sexually exploit or assault minors. Offenders in this category may engage in grooming or other forms of manipulation to exploit children. Sexual harassers. These offenders engage in unwelcome and inappropriate behavior, including verbal or physical harassment, often in public spaces or workplaces. Legal framework for sexual offenders in India. India has seen significant legal reforms in recent years to address sexual offenses, particularly following high-profile cases that sparked widespread outrage. Key laws addressing sexual offenses include the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013, Nirbhaya Act. This act, passed after the 2012 Delhi gang rape case, expanded the definition of sexual offenses and introduced stricter penalties for crimes such as rape, stalking, voyeurism, and acid attacks. The law also mandates fast-track courts for handling rape cases to ensure swift justice. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences (POCSO) Act 2012. This act deals specifically with sexual crimes against children, providing stringent punishment for offences such as child molestation, rape, and sexual exploitation. The POCSO Act includes provisions for setting up special courts to deal with such cases and ensures child-friendly procedures during investigation and trial. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition, and Redressal Act 2013. This law aims to prevent and address sexual harassment in the workplace, mandating the formation of internal complaints committees (ICCs) in organizations to handle complaints of sexual harassment and ensure a safe working environment for women. Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code (IPC). This section defines the crime of rape and provides for its punishment. Various amendments have broadened the definition of rape to include acts beyond traditional definitions, ensuring that non-consensual sexual acts of any kind are punishable. Section 354 of the IPC. This section deals with acts intended to outrage the modesty of a woman, including assault or use of criminal force with the intent to insult or violate a woman's dignity. Challenges in addressing sexual offenses. Despite the presence of stringent laws, the implementation of legal provisions is often fraught with challenges. Victims of sexual offenses face social stigma, victim blaming, and re-traumatization during legal proceedings. Law enforcement agencies also struggle with delays in investigations, lack of sensitivity in handling victims, and corruption. Furthermore, underreporting of sexual crimes remains a significant issue due to fear of retaliation or societal pressures to remain silent.